A cyclic quadrilateral is a quadrilateral whose vertices lie on a circle. So if we now draw a quadrilateral in this circle such that all the vertices of the quadrilateral lie on the circle, then ABCD here is what is known as a cyclic quadrilateral. Extremely useful property of a cyclic quadrilateral is opposite angles of a cyclic quadrilateral are supplementary. Now how do we get this? Angle X out here would be half measure of arc DCB. Angle Y is half measure of arc DAB. So when we add X and Y, we would get half measure of arc DCB plus measure of arc DAB, which is nothing but half the entire circle, and hence we get 180 degrees. So opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral are always supplementary. Now if this cyclic quadrilateral happens to be a cyclic trapezium, which means if we draw a trapezium inside a circle, then what we will find, the oblique sides will always be equal, and hence if PQRS is a trapezium, because the vertices lie on the circle, PQRS is a cyclic trapezium. It will always be an isosceles trapezium, because in such a case the oblique sides would always be equal. Let's have a look at tangent secant theorem. As you can see in this diagram, we have drawn a circle. We have a tangent. Suppose we label these points as X and Y, and we have three secants drawn in such a manner that two secants pass through this common point of intersection of the circle with the tangent, and then through these other 2 points you have another common secant. Let's label these points as A, B, C, and we have these points here on the arcs as M and N. Now what does tangent secant theorem really say? When I look at angle ACB, if I call that as angle X, angle ACB is half measure of arc BMA. So angle ACB is half measure of arc BMA. Now if we look at this diagram carefully, because the tangent touches the circle exactly in one point A, angle BAY is also angle subtended on the circumference by the same arc BMA, and hence angle BAY would also be half measure of arc BMA. Now since we have already studied this, angles subtended by the same arc are equal, and hence angle BAY is also X, and by tangent secant theorem we would have angle BCA is equal to angle BAY. Angle BCA is equal to angle BAY. In the same manner, we have another pair of angles which would be equal due to tangent secant theorem. If we call this angle CBA as Y, angle CBA is angle subtended by arc CNA on the circumference, and the same arc CNA would also subtend angle CAX on the circumference, and hence we would have one more pair of equal angles due to tangent secant theorem. This is completely dependent on our observation that since the tangent touches the circle in exactly one point A, this angle BAY is angle subtended on the circumference by arc BMA, and similarly angle CAX is angle subtended on the circumference by arc CNA. This is tangent secant theorem. Let's see what happens when two secants intersect. Now it's possible that two secants intersect at a point inside the circle or outside the circle. Let's first consider the case where the two secants intersect externally. So if we have a secant and if we have another secant, which once again these two secants meet at one common point outside the circle, suppose this point is P, and this secant cuts the circle in these points A, B, C and D. Now with respect to this property, we're going to look at two different things. One is in terms of the lens and the other is in terms of the angle at this point of intersection. Let's first look at a property associated with respect to the lens. If we join these points BD and AC, then we would notice that X and Y would add up to 180 degrees. Why? Because opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral are supplementary, and this X and Y would also add up to 180 degrees because they are angles in a linear pair. Hence we can conclude that angle ABD, or rather angle PBD, is equal to angle PCA. Angle P is common, and hence if I am looking at triangles PCA and PBD, then I would get triangle PCA is similar to triangle PBD, and if we now write corresponding sides are in proportion, we would get PC upon PB is equal to PA upon PD, which will give us our property, which is PA into PB is equal to PC into PD. Please note, one of the most common mistakes made in this property is PA into AB is equal to PC into CD. It is not true. It is PA into the entire length PB is equal to PC into the entire length PD, and we've got that through similarity. So this is the property with respect to the lens on these secants. Let's now try and understand a property with respect to angle at this point of intersection. So if we want to find a formula for measure of angle BPD. Now to arrive at this particular formula, let's join BC. And now once we've joined BC, suppose we have these angles as C, A and B. The question that we want to actually solve, or the formula that we want, is for B. Now when I look at triangle PBC, this angle C is the exterior angle, and hence we can say C is equal to A plus B. We've already gone through a property which says exterior angle is equal to sum of remote interior angles. So C is equal to A plus B, which basically means that B is equal to C minus A. Now we can say that this angle C, if this point is labeled as M and if this point is labeled as N, then angle C is half measure of arc BMD and angle A is half measure of arc ANC. So if we were to write this formula, angle B would be half of measure of arc BMD minus measure of arc ANC. And hence we can remember this formula as when two secants intersect at a point outside the circle, the angle at that point of intersection is half the difference of the arcs that we can look at with respect to this angle. So when we look at this angle here, we can see an arc BMD here and an arc ANC on the circle here, and angle at this point of intersection is half the difference of these arcs. So these are the two properties, one for the lens and the other in terms of angle at the point of intersection when we have two secants intersecting externally. We've seen what happens when two secants intersect externally. Now let's see what happens when two secants intersect internally. So if we have a secant AB and if we have another secant CD and these two secants intersect at this point P, then once again we're going to have two formulae, one with respect to the lens and the other with respect to the angle at the point of intersection. First, to arrive at the formula for the lens, let's join AD and BC. Now when we look at these triangles DPA and BPC, we can notice that you have vertically opposite angles, and these two angles would be angles subtended on the circumference by the same arc AC, and hence those two angles would be equal. So we would have triangle PDA similar to triangle PBC. And once again, if we write corresponding sides in proportion, we would get PD upon PB is equal to PA upon PC, and hence when we cross multiply we get PA into PB is equal to PC into PD. Now when two secants intersect internally, the product of the two parts on each secant, which means PC into PD, would be equal to the product of the two parts on the other secant, which is PA into PB. So this is the property with respect to the lens. Now let's try and understand the property with respect to angle at the point of intersection. Suppose we want to write a formula for this angle, let's call it Z. If we join AC and if we say that this angle is X and this angle is Y, then what we would have here in this triangle PAC, Z is the exterior angle, and hence we would have Z is equal to X plus Y. Z is nothing but angle DPA, which is equal to X is angle subtended at point A by this arc BMC, and hence we would write half measure of arc BMC, and Y is angle subtended at point C by this arc DNA, and hence here we would get half measure of arc DNA. And if we just simplify this, we get angle at the point of intersection when the point is inside is half the sum of the two arcs that we can see with respect to the angle at the point of intersection. So this angle DPA is actually half measure of arc DNA plus half measure of arc BMC. So these are the two properties when the secants intersect at a point inside the circle. Let's now move on to intersection of a tangent and a secant. Suppose we have a tangent and a secant and they intersect at this point P. The secant cuts the circles in these points A and B, and the tangent touches the circle at point C. Yet again we want to arrive at two formulae, one with respect to the lens and the other with respect to the angle at the point of intersection. Let's now join these points A and C and B and C. So once we join these points, we would now notice that angle P is a common angle, and this angle which is PBC is equal to this angle which is PCA due to tangent secant theorem that we have just studied. Since these two are equal angles and this is a common angle, we would get triangle PBC is similar to triangle PCA, and if we write the corresponding sides in proportion, we would get PB upon PC is equal to PC upon PA, which would mean PA into PB is equal to PC squared. So the property with respect to the lens would be PA multiplied by the entire length PB is equal to square of PC. If we now move on to the property for the angles, or rather the angle at the point of intersection, let's assume this angle is Z, this angle is listed as X, and this is Y. So if we look at triangle ACP, this Z is the exterior angle, which hence would make it very clear that Z is equal to x plus y, and we can say y is therefore Z minus x. Z is the angle subtended on the circle by arc BMC, and hence we can say half measure of arc BMC minus x is the angle subtended on the circumference by this arc ANC, and hence we can say x is half measure of arc ANC, which would then give us our final formula as half measure of arc BMC minus measure of arc ANC. So once again, when you have a tangent and a secant intersecting outside the circle, the angle at the point of intersection is half the difference of the arcs, which we can look at or which we can see with respect to this angle. You have an arc BMC and you have an arc ANC, and it is half the difference of the arcs. So we've looked at all possibilities: two secants intersecting outside the circle, two secants intersecting inside, and finally a secant and a tangent intersecting outside the circle. When we look at this property for common tangents, we can have common tangents drawn in two ways. The first way is what is represented here, where you have the two circles on the same side of the tangent. So you have a tangent common to two circles, and the two circles are on the same side of this tangent. Suppose we draw or join the center to this point where the tangent touches the circle, then this would be 90 degrees. Once again, if we do it in this circle, it would be 90 degrees because tangent is perpendicular to the radius. Suppose this is R2 and this is R1, and if the centers are A and B and these points are P and Q, the property that we want to arrive at, or the formula that we want to arrive at, is a formula for length of this direct common tangent, which is PQ. If we now join A and B, and from point Q, if we draw a line which is parallel to AB meeting AP, so if we were to draw that line from Q parallel to AB, then this part would also be R2, and hence this small part would be R1 minus R2. If this parallel from Q meets AP at this point M, then MQ would be equal to AB, and hence when we consider this triangle MPQ, which is a right angle triangle, and if we apply Pythagoras theorem, then we would get AB, which is the hypotenuse, so square of AB is equal to PQ square plus this small length, which is R1 minus R2 the whole square. This is by using Pythagoras theorem, and hence we would get PQ is equal to square root of AB square minus R1 minus R2 the whole square. So length of the direct common tangent is equal to square root of square of the distance between the centers minus square of the difference between the radii. This is the formula for the direct common tangent. When the two circles were on the same side of the common tangent was called as the direct common tangent. Now when you have two circles on opposite sides of the common tangent, it would be called as the transverse common tangent. Once again, we need to arrive at a formula for the length of the transverse common tangent, which is PQ. If we have the centers as A and B, and if we join these two points A and B, and if we join A to P, which would give us a right angle if this radius is R1, if we join B to Q, which would again give us a right angle, and this is R2. We need to arrive at a formula for this length PQ. Now if we extend this BQ beyond Q, and through this point A, if we actually draw a line which is parallel to PQ, then we would get this angle here also as a right angle. When we look at this length, if this point suppose is M, then this length AM would be the same as PQ. This length MQ would be the same as R1, and hence if we use Pythagoras in right angle triangle ABM, we would get AB square is equal to AM square, which is nothing but PQ square, plus BM square, which is nothing but R1 plus R2 the whole square. And hence if we want to write a formula for PQ, it would become square root of AB square minus R1 plus R2 the whole square, which is nothing but square of the distance between the centers minus square of the sum of the radii in this case, and an entire under root of this whole expression. So if we compare the formula for transverse common tangent with direct common tangent, the only difference would be in direct common tangent we had R1 minus R2 in this bracket, and in transverse common tangent we have R1 plus R2.